I'm not a religious man, but there is a tale of a man who I find intriguing. I'm not going to say who he is. One of his famous sayings was, "You can give a man a fish and he'll be fed for the day. But if you teach him how to fish, he'll be fed for the rest of his life." Now, why am I saying this? We live in a time where it's not enough to know, and people need to know how. And knowledge is the precursor to experience. So ask yourself this question: is there anyone in your external life that would benefit from the information that's available on our page? My view is life is not about competition, it's about learning and helping each other and thriving. So, who can you share with? Feel free to copy the link in our page and share away. How you going,
Well,
Brad?
good. How are you?
Good, mate. Now, I spent 5 years in the desert, and one of the things I was pining to get back to next to the ocean was the ocean. And fortunately, I was able to jump into a job with yourself who shared the same passion, and that is the ocean. Can you spend a few minutes just describing what the ocean means to you and what led you to begin to surf?
Yeah, sure. And thanks for having me. I guess the first point of view for the ocean, I grew up around the ocean as a kid. So I grew up in Rimbula when I was younger, and a lot of my childhood memories were related around water and fishing, and it's a great part of the world. But as I got older, and I was working a lot, and I was a dad, and I wasn't spending any time on myself. I wanted to reconnect with something that was really selfish for myself. So kind of thought, well, what better way than to I live right beside the ocean. I think I'll regret it as I get older. So I jumped back into surfing and thought at the age of 36 I could be Kelly Slater. So no, so just jumped back into it, and yeah, it kind of progressed from there. But what's drawn me to it and really held me to surfing is it's just for anyone who's ever been in the water and surfed, it's undescribable how you feel afterwards. You feel alive, you feel electric. It's the cold water therapy that we discuss a lot at times, and just how it can ease all your pain and tension and everything else. But then it keeps me feeling young. I feel like I'm 14 again. Back when I was younger. So there's a real big thing with the stillness. Out in the ocean. So there's lots of different things, but yeah.
We were very fortunate growing up. We got to go on a holiday actually up to Pambula Rivermouth, and that little holiday park up there. We often walk from Pambula to Maroomula, so you'd be you'd know a bit about Pambula too. Growing up in that area, it's just a beautiful coastline in New South Wales, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I loved growing up there as a kid. I was very fortunate. My dad was a golf curator on across the golf. So I grew up on the golf courses, right on the beaches, fishing, surfing, and just that whole landscape's amazing.
What do you do for a profession, Brad?
So I work for Gen U now. So I'm a training manager now for a not-for-profit. We train for mental health, community services, aged care courses, really aimed in that community services space. I've been with the company for about 18 months. But prior to that, I was retail with yourself, and prior for, I think I clocked up about 26 years in retail over since I was a young kid. So I fell into retail really early, but I worked my way up into some execs roles through that as well. And yeah, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and trying to find more of a role that suited my family, which is this role's been amazing and really adds a lot of value.
Definitely is an experience being in retail, isn't it?
Yes, good and bad, I guess. All experiences we go through, you take the good out of it. You get good at time management. You get good at decision making on the fly. All those things because you're forced into it. But then, unfortunately, retail is not the sector it used to be 20 years ago. So, it's getting tougher and tougher on the employers.
Can you tell us a little bit more about where you were born and what life was like
growing up? You mentioned Maroonbula, and just a little bit more about life around there.
Yeah, so twin brother, grew up on the golf courses, as I mentioned. Really stable family, as such. Lived in Maroonbula until I was 12. Really normal family, not scratching for a dollar, but we were doing okay, but we weren't doing great. But just normal life in the 80s. It was a great time to grow up. And for everything we always talk about, just those reconnections to the simple things in life, and that was life down there. So, beach, bike rides, all of those as a childhood. And then when I was 12, come home from school, and Dad sat us down and said that he was leaving and he found another partner. So flipped my world upside down at the age of 12, I guess. From having a really stable, normal relationship, family life, to never thinking anything would happen, to having all that unfold. So that was probably the first real experience where I had to grow up exceptionally early and start to be the man of the house, essentially. And Dad did the dirty on us, and didn't do right by Mum, and basically took all the money and left her with nothing. So at that point, we had to kind of pack up, and Mum had to, unfortunately, talk to us and say, "Hey, we're going to have to move back to Colac." So if anyone knows Colac, moving from Maroonbula to Colac was quite a shock. So, but her Mum and Dad lived down that way, so she needed the support. So, we sucked it up, I moved away from all my friends and family, and moved back to Colac. So, and that started a whole nother journey. But yeah, that was my early childhood anyway.
Whole big culture shock, pack up and leave and start life in a different location. Yeah, it definitely would have rattled you.
Yeah, and just, Mum wasn't employed at that stage, so Dad was the bread earner, and suddenly it's just me, Mum, and my brother, and how are we going to have money? How you go through all these things as a young kid, going, how does the world work? Had no idea. So that was a whole big thing, and then settled into Colac. Went through teenage years through Colac, and went through a whole lot of other experiences then.
Through all your experiences up to this point in your life, how would you describe yourself?
I've been through a lot over the years. When I got into it, been through a lot of adversity, I guess. A lot of moments in my life that have been quite character building, I think. And that first one that I mentioned, obviously with Dad leaving, was probably the catalyst to start it all. But when we were 16, we lost everything in a fire when we were moving house, right down to all we had was the mattress we were laying on and just the clothes we were wearing. We were going to move house the next day. So we learnt to lose everything, and that was essentially when Mum was, living off food stamps at that point with no money. So I was quite fortunate enough to be to get into a really good school in Colac. They kept me quite steady, but so I had some good mentors and good people around me, and I think that was a really big thing that shifted who I was, to be around good people at an early age, because I could have been quite swayed the other way. But went through a lot at that point, and then as I've been through a lot over the years, but I guess the key point is that throughout it all, I kind of got a drive early on. I had to grow up really early, and I had to kind of make a choice. So I can either be a byproduct of my environment, and just accept that I can't be and I can't do what I want to do. So it gave me this really burning passion to do more. So everything I've always gone after, I've try to do it the best I can. I'm very kind of competitive, and it's given me that internal drive to not be a part of that. So it's been interesting. But does that answer your question?
It does. That was inspiring and personal too. So thanks heaps for sharing that with us, Brad. I think people these days like to judge a book by its cover, and they don't really know the content. And what you just shared now, it's very personal. So appreciate hearing the rawness of your situation through life. Who has been the most important person in your life?
There's been a few as you go through life. I think my family right now is the most biggest anchor I've got, in my current circumstance. But leading as I was coming up, and I guess I worked with some really smart people over the years that kind of mentored me on a personal level, but also on a professional level. But they also kind of kept dangling a carrot at me to want to do more and to be better. They seen an opportunity in me. So there was a few key people that seen a real opportunity and really pushed me at an early age, and which led me to get into some executive roles and other things. So there were some really key people through work that I have, but outside of work, I don't, can't put enough on being around positive people that are on the same wavelength as yourself, that have the same values and the same interests, and really connecting in with more people like that. And generally things go well.
Beautifully said. What do people seem to misunderstand about you?
High functioning. I have a pretty high expectation on myself. So, and with everything that I do. I'm high functioning. I've got I like a high standard. I'm very meticulous in what I do. But at the same time, I'm quite balanced. I don't know. I feel like I'm in a pretty good place these days. I've been through a lot through that high pressure environment, through work, and to come out the other side and to start working on things that are more important to myself now. I feel more grounded than I ever have anyway. So,
a favourite memory, if you had a favourite memory to share with us today, what would that be?
Favourite memory, that's tough. I think all your milestones are really important. I don't know how I'd put it, having children and getting married and all those things, they've got to hit the top of the bucket list. But yeah, favourite memory.
You just you posted not long ago that you I think it was your wedding anniversary when you got to do a few things that a lot of us haven't done yet, like bungee jump and all that kind of stuff. That could definitely be a memory, or that's just the one of the.
My wife really pushed me into travel early on, and I was pretty insular, living in kind of like environment and small town syndrome, and she wanted to travel and do things. So, we were quite fortunate to do Europe for 6 weeks. So I got to experience some different cultures and just some of the amazing, history that's over there, the food, and been in New Zealand, and New Zealand's breathtaking, and had some amazing holidays. So I've been quite fortunate to have been to Bali a few times, and Europe, and just some amazing places. So that was really good to get. Do you
have any regrets in your life?
When I was coming up into my highest roles at my peak of my career, when I was at supermarkets, I didn't pay any attention to my family. It was just 100% work. And, it was taking me 80 hours a week to maintain that role, probably on any given week, and the phone would ring all nights and days, and it was really hard to be present with the family. And at the time, I'd do some housework, or I'd do some things, or I'd do the yard, and I'd go, oh yeah, I've been there for my family, I've done my bit. But there's a whole lot more to it than that. So it wasn't until I got outside of that environment that I probably took a real look back and said, I wasn't there for them. I thought I was doing all the right things. I was driving, but it was all for myself. So, but I'm glad I can, probably I'm aware of it now, because I've done it at the right age before the kids are too old too. So, very fortunate now that I've kind of, seen the light on that at an early age with them as well. So I get to experience all that now. So, all these experiences, you take the good and the bad, don't you? You kind of pick out how you don't want to act, and
Everyone has pet peeves. Do you have a particular one that sets you off, a pet peeve?
Laziness. Can't handle laziness. I think there's too much to do. I think there's a time and place for rest and everything
Yeah.
else, but not working on yourself, not working on your family, not getting after things, having goals and doing things, and just cruising through life kind of annoys me because there's so many opportunities for everyone. So that can peeve me.
Mm. Was there someone in your life you regret not showing appreciation to?
Yeah, probably my father would be the first one, but my father passed away of a heart attack about 10 years ago now, but we hadn't had any contact since I was 16 with him. And at that age, I was quite angry and, that teenage age, and probably couldn't really see the bigger picture that, he needed to go live his own life and do his own thing afterwards. So there was he was a pretty shitty dad, but at the same time, there was a lot of good memories younger on, but we never really kind of reconciled on that over the years. But probably the only real thing. At the same time, I don't have any real regrets either. You only live once, and you've got to stand by how things go. And yeah.
Yeah, no, that's well said. Here's a tricky one for you. A lot of, I think this is going to trip up a few people talking about it. You can be as brief for as long as you want to be, but do you have any spirituality beliefs or religious beliefs in your life?
No. I was pushed through Catholic at an early age, but I've never had any affiliation with any kind of religion. Probably very open-minded around anything's a possibility, I guess. So, I prefer to put my energy into well-being and mental health, and this meditation and other things. You're starting to get me hooked on that, so that's good. Yeah, all those kind of things, but no spiritual kind of following. But you're very open-minded. Probably the few things that I have really uncovered over the last few years is just how important diet is, lifestyle. We turn 40 and you start to question all these things a little bit more too.
So it's more of a personal routine within yourself than, I totally agree. That's a great answer. I had to go to church too as a younger age, and it wasn't something for me. So I can totally relate. Is there anything in your life right now that you'd like to change? Anything at all?
I'm in a really good space at the moment. Where compared to wherever I have been, I probably really understood recently the value of balance. So I'm trying to make time for myself each week, which is really, really hard to do. When you're working full time, you're a dad, you've got all these expectations as a husband, as a father, as as a full-time worker, and how do you squeeze that time in for yourself? But I've been really, really on that self-motivation to make sure I do it. And my wife agrees. When I go for a surf, I'm a better person. So I'm more relaxed. I've had my time. That's my happy place. And then I come back and I'm more engaged with them than what I would have been doing whatever. So that part of it, I've got well. Work's going exceptionally well. So I'm really balanced in my flexibility. I'm really fortunate where I am, and I've actually got a lot of gratitude for where I currently sit. Worked my ass off for 27 years and did all the hard work, and now I've kind of understood what's probably more important to myself now, which is exciting. It's good.
So you totally agree that if you're able to go surf and that, you're a much more productive person at home and just a better person to be around in general when you're at home. You'd agree to that?
Oh, definitely. Like this year I was fortunate enough to jump in with Brophy and do some surf therapy with the youth. So we were teaching underprivileged children that are struggling, to come in to connect with us. So each week we'd run a session on mental health, or it might have been alcohol and other drugs, or might have been on positive relationships. But then we'd take them out and teach them to surf afterwards, and it was all funded, and it's a great program. But what I seen out of it was just positive connections between the kids, building these relationships. They were there to stay. But just how good they felt after being in the surf, and how it said it changed them. They'd be more calm, be more relaxed. We had many discussions on it.
Benefits of the ocean, eh? Look, we
awesome.
had a little chat the other day when we went for a walk about, where were you when the unfortunate events of September 11th were unfolding. And I'm not going to get into that, but I'm using it as a point of view, is that when you first start to surf and you're able to get to your feet, that's a memory also that you remember for the rest of your life. So you being able to give those kids opportunity to do that, it's be very beneficial for their mental health and memories to look back on when it comes to surfing. So what a fantastic event to be organised and to get into. So
when we go, we've only got our memories, don't we? So I still remember my top few waves that I got when I first started, and it's interesting that these moments they do matter. So thanks. Yeah, it was good. It was a good part. It was a good thing to be part of. I really enjoyed it. And even for myself, you get to the end of the week and I go, what was the highlight out of my week? My highlight was out of the week was spending 3 hours with these kids, connecting in with them and actually teaching them a new skill and having a bit of fun. And otherwise it would have just been a normal week. So it was good to take some time out and actually do it.
What do you wish you'd known 10 years ago today?
Yeah.
It's a hard one, eh?
Yeah, look, a few things. Like, tried a lot of things. I got quite sick over it a few years back when I was working myself to death, basically. Basically being diagnosed with Crohn's disease now, and it's hereditary, and there's things involved in that. But I guess just how how wrapped up you can get in a job and the stresses that come with all that. That there's more important things to life as well. So that was probably a big thing. I should have had a more of a balanced approach at an earlier age. But one thing that I have really taken out of it when I did get sick was just how important some of these treatments are that are out there, especially with diet. Went on a really big, I've tried a lot of different diet routines lately, and just the power that's within food if you eat healthy and you commit to it, and just how energized and amazing you can feel from it. But then,
Can you, for the viewers watching, explain what Crohn's disease is in a little bit more detail for the people that don't know what's going on when Crohn's attacks?
Yeah, so you go through flare-ups with Crohn's. So it's in your autoimmune coming through in your small intestine, causes a lot of issues with, obviously, eating, muscle fatigue. So my muscles are constantly breaking down, constantly battling aches and pains. And if it come with fatigue, there's a lot of different ranges, different things that can come with. But ultimately, the biggest impacts are food and diet and a healthy lifestyle. So plenty of water and plenty of healthy foods, the right foods as well. So it's really important to get that right. But for those who are more severe, they've got to go down medication and lots of heavy medication, and it's not pleasant. So I'm quite fortunate that I got onto it at a fairly early stage.
Thanks for sharing that. And Brad, you talked about your diet and whatnot, and something that we speak about every now and then is about intermittent fasting. Now, for people that don't know what that is, can you give a brief explanation and what your routine looks like and how it really benefits your day-to-day?
Yeah, I'm really into intermittent fasting. I've tried a lot of different things with diet over the years. So when I first got sick, I went on to just all liquid diet for 6 weeks, and it was just soups and smoothies, and that was to really cleanse the whole body out. And it was amazing. After about after about 3 weeks, the amount of energy that I had was off the charts. I felt like I was 10 years younger. All my aches and pains had gone away. And I was like, this is amazing. But it wasn't sustainable. So, that's not something I'd recommend to do long term. But after that, I tried a few different things, but intermittent fasting is the one that I landed on. It's just having a break having set routines between your breaks from start to finish. So, for instance, I won't eat after 8 o'clock tonight, and I'll have a goal not to eat for at least 12 hours. I started off with 12 hours. I'd just say 8 till 8, so don't eat between those periods of time. But this is where your body goes into rest and starts actually healing itself. But once you get over that 16-hour mark, when you do get into that fasting, that's when you see your real benefits. So that's when your body starts really doing the real work. So I generally stop eating at 8 o'clock, and I probably won't eat till about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I eat and I don't feel like I need to eat as much rubbish as much, because I haven't had that food coming in. So I'm not eating the sugars that are craving my carbs and making me eat more and more and more. Those kind of things. When I do eat, just stay off fairly healthy, and I don't mind if I have a little bit of a splurge every now and again at night either. So it's just about balance. But
what has been your biggest failure throughout your life, and what did you learn from it?
I made a lot of failures over the years. I guess without pinpointing one, out of all the failures that I've learned from, the one thing I've always looked at the opportunities that I've missed or that could have been gained out of it. So I kind of really worked through a really good framework in that I'm always looking for the opportunities in what I can do. And, these failures over the years, I've put myself in some really, really high pressure situations. I had to get up and speak to a group of 1,000 people in a big auditorium, and never done anything like that. And I thought, well, if I don't take this opportunity, I won't move to the next step, or I won't feel satisfied, or et cetera, et cetera. But if I fail, well, what have I learned out of it? I've learned a lot of good skills that maybe I need to improve on, or, some different things like that. So I constantly used to throw myself in these positions where people were pulling away. I'd throw myself in there and go, well, just do it. And take out what you can out of it, because 9 times out of 10, I was going to succeed. And just that belief in myself to go, just do it. And what's the worst that can happen? So that took a lot of training and a lot of, it wasn't easy, but it starts to build. Once you've done it a lot, you kind of just start.
I remember you telling me that you're in a situation where you're just surrounded by all these high pressure kind of higher ups, and you were given a task to do, and you didn't have time to go over it. You had to act, and you had to do it then and there in front of everyone. And it was either do or die kind of attitude. So that's definitely the pressure cooker, eh?
Yeah, I did an interview where we got videotaped, and we had to sit there, and it was all role play, and then we'd have actors come in, and it was all on the fly, and all the executive team are watching. It was pretty full on. Wouldn't recommend that to everyone.
How would you like to be remembered?
I just generally try to be just a generally good guy. I just want to have I don't need to make bells and whistles or do anything as I go along, but I just want to be a really good dad, a really good husband, have really good relationships and friends around me, try new things. I think that's so important as we get older, especially, just picking up new hobbies and skills and just trying something new to keep things fresh. And, those kind of things are just, and just being the best version of me, I guess, constantly trying to improve my diet or improve my exercise or improve my time with my kids. So I guess that maybe it would be that trying to be the best version of me. That'll do.
I think I can speak for the rest of the guys that had the privilege to work with you when we did work with you, and not a bad word was ever said, and we appreciated having you been under yourself, and we miss those kind of days. So I don't think that anyone, especially in our group, would disagree with that who used to work with you. So there's a little bit of a tick for you, Brad.
No, I appreciate it, guys. I miss everyone there. It was a really good time to work with everyone. And, and as you go through those situations, I didn't want to ask anyone to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. And that was one of those really big things I learned as I was coming up early, is don't ever do anything I'm not prepared to go and do. So, I think you just got to treat people right. But I loved working with everyone there. So thanks for the feedback. It's great.
What does the future hold for Brad?
Early retirement. Oh no, I'm definitely working backwards. I want to live life and do a bit, but kids are growing up, so I'm just trying to spend as much family time. We only get one right. And the kids are, they're 9 and 7. My youngest turns 7 tomorrow, and I still remember holding him in my arms. It feels like a month ago. It goes so quickly. So I'm just really passionate about, not that I'm not trying to work, but finding as much time as I can not working.
But we'd all agree that it'll be a beautiful life if we didn't have to. But yeah, with these things we have to do, don't we? But
no, that's right. It's not as easy as it says. But for me, the next few years, work's going really well. Family's going really well. I'm just going to try to do as much surfing and as much time on myself, and just work on myself, just being genuinely happy. That's probably the big thing.
Beautiful. You spoke a little bit about fasting, which is great, but is there any other habits in your life that you like to share with us? Do you have a routine that you go through daily, or any habits that you can share?
Yeah, I've done heaps over the years. I try to feel, I wouldn't say, and they come and go. So I think that's one thing important to remember, is that as you try these things, just because you drop that doesn't mean that it's gone forever and you've failed on that, or that didn't work. I think they're good to pick up when you're feeling right and doing certain things. So I think there's a timing with it. But habits, yes, I do my fasting each night. I'm really, really big believer is you've got to move. You've got to continually move. I think it's not about these hardcore exercises and everything else that everyone says, but we're designed to move and to be active and to hunt and gather and to do all these things. A big routine for me, as much as getting outside as possible. I can't stress how much better I feel having more vitamin D, getting outside in nature. It doesn't always have to be the surf. It can be out in the bush, just anywhere where it's detoxing and doing those kind of things. That's probably just as important as anything I do, just getting away from it. I've been doing this guided meditation recently, and I'm really, really connecting in with that. It's got a lot of value, Matt. So I appreciate you landing us into that. That's the one I'm watching at the moment. It's really good. I'll share it with the group too. Really connecting with it.
There's so much out there. I mean, I like to focus on one particular because it's helped me so much, but that doesn't mean to say that it's going to help everyone else. So that's great that you're having a look at some different stuff, and there's so much stuff out there. So
yeah, that's right.
If that's working for you, that's fantastic.
Cold water therapy is probably the biggest thing that for those who are sitting on the fence. I've done the cold showers, and I think I first led you into Wim Hof at the start when I said I was trying some breathing exercises and passed it on, and Matty got hooked on it. But I did them before I did some Wim Hof before I went into an interview once, and it really calmed me down, and and how energetic I felt when I went into the room, and I was bouncing off the walls. So that was a good experience that I first started on. Yeah, but then I did the cold showers, and they're great. Again, all your tips are right. Start with a warm shower, and then at the end, when you're ready, go cold. But it feels like you've had 10 cups of coffee when you've got out. And that holds for a while. It's amazing. It's good stuff.
I still do that. I still start with warm. I have my normal shower, and then when it's time to flick the switch, and then that happens, and it's uncomfortable for a little bit, but you get used to it. And then when you get out and dry yourself, you're like, well, here we go.
Yeah, and it's like when I'm in the ocean, it can be, I surf through in the winter, and it can be 1 degree when you get in the water. But you get out, and I hose myself off with a cold tap, like, and I still feel great. Like, I don't know, you just get used to it. Your body adapts to it. But
we love our podcasts.
Yeah.
If you had to choose 3, like off the top of your head, like for people out there that don't really get in the podcast and they go, oh, what is this word podcast? And, there's so many different ones out there. But if you had to choose your top 3 just off the top of your head, what would they be?
Definitely Joe Rogan. You can't go past the king.
The daddy.
Especially, yeah. Oh, look, he's just so real in a lot of ways, even though he's not as real as what he probably used to be. But he's, I love his interview style. But when he gets onto some of those really good in-depth interviews that are real bone crunching, they're great. You can't beat them.
Yeah.
And and he has a lot of fun too. So I really like his approach to life. He's, I think he's
just like back, eh?
Yeah. So kind of shits me a bit, but that's all right. No, he's great. London Real. Matty got me onto that. Just his interview techniques, and just they're great stories. Pick and choose what you want, but they're really, really good.
I think he got a little bit lost. He got a little bit lost with the virus hit, and wanted to make a lot of his content about the virus. And so I kind of go backwards to go forwards, if that makes sense, because I'd rather listen to Pick Me Up instead of
But then the third one I'd just say open to anyone, just to find something that connects with you. There's such good stuff out there on podcasts.
What about your WSL?
Oh, that is definitely top 3. It's to my top 1. So the lineup for me is brilliant. I just love it. I watch that. I listen to that every time it's on, but that's not for everybody.
All right. Here's this is a funny question for you. Let's see how you answer this one. All right. If you had a book written on your life, what would the title be? But also within the question is, if the book was written by your worst enemy, what would the title be?
Battler. The Battler. Could go on all day about some of the stuff I've seen over the years. So I've battled through a lot, but I'd go with the Battler. But what would they say? My worst enemy. My height would have to be mentioned in that for sure. I don't know. I haven't got too many enemies. It's a tough one. Not that I know of, anyway.
We'll just go with the Battler.
Maybe I've got an arch enemy somewhere. Hey?
I think we all have fans, don't we?
Look, I guess as I was coming up and getting more successful, there would be always people that were always naysaying and trying to pick on you and say things and trying to put you down. And I think that's just general nature. But one thing I learned early on was, does it matter to me? Is this going to matter to me in 3 months? Is this person even going to be on my radar? If they're not, then don't waste any of my energy on it. Just keep focusing on what I want to do and just get after that. Don't worry about what people think. So it was,
wise words, bro. All right. If you could have 3 people, past or present, join you at the dinner table, let's say, what's a really nice restaurant? At a really nice restaurant, 3 people, past or present, who would those 3 people be and why?
That's tough, hey? 3 people. I don't even know where to start.
I'll give you an example of my first one. And I'd like to have Steve Irwin at the dinner table. Can you imagine the kind of theatrics you'd get when he's at the dinner table? It would be entertaining for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, there's so many good people. How do you put them all in a box?
Yeah.
Like, I can go back to my old music days. I can think, senior politicians and some amazing leaders that,
Yeah, you
can't
could
answer that one.
have a beer with Bob. Imagine Bob there. He'd be out drinking you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that wraps up our little podcast, Brad. I want to thank you very much it was a real raw kind of podcast, which I thought was great. Inspiring. I'm definitely inspired from hearing your story. I mean, I've heard bits and pieces, but that definitely was like the full book, which was great. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Anything you'd like to add in the end?
No, thanks for having me, and thanks for everything you're doing with the group. I think if something will resonate with everyone in their own little way as you go along, and I think you just keep putting your great content out there. I think I pick up on snippets as we go along, and I'm taking things out of it and really appreciate it. I think it's great. Thanks for putting all the energy into it. It's awesome.
I appreciate your feedback, bro.
Yeah.
Take care, mate.
So easy. Thanks, mate.
So that was all right.